The Trump regime's manipulation of the next election likely is not going to come in the form that some people are worried about, where he just cancels the election and it doesn't happen, or he's the only person that gets to be on the ballot or whatever. It's not gonna be like that. What it's gonna be like is honestly worse. Because if he just cancels the election, everybody can oppose that. Everybody can get in the streets. No, they're gonna be uncharacteristically subtle, okay? And honestly kind of clever about the way they try to end democracy in America. And so in this segment, we wanna jump into some of the awesome recent reporting by the Brennan Center on the various ways that the Trump administration is getting involved in elections at the state level, manipulating things, effectively doing what they can to rig the outcome many months before the election actually happens. And so the Brennan Center goes very in depth. You should totally read it if you're a nerd. I mean, you clicked on this video, you probably are, you're a nerd for democracy. But some of the top line points include attempting to rewrite election rules to burden voters and usurp control of election systems. In the first part of that is effectively doing at the federal level what Republicans have been doing at the state level for many, many cycles, trying to make it as hard as possible to vote because they know they can't win if everybody is involved. The next step is targeting or threatening to target election officials and others who keep elections free and fair. And they've already had a great deal of success in that, in replacing actual civil servants with experience, expertise, values, and ethics with loyalists who are only there because they will do what Donald Trump wants. And we've seen that at the state level, secretaries of state, county boards of election in a number of different states already. Supporting people who undermine election administration. So that's sort of what I was talking about there, but also getting the right people at the national level. So when Donald Trump tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election, which he lost, sorry MAGA, he lost it. You had a few people even in his administration who would not just go along with sham investigations or declarations that the election had been stolen because it hadn't been. Those people are not allowed in the administration anymore. Loyalty to Donald Trump, not to America, its system of government, its constitution, that rules the day. And finally, retreating from the federal government's role of protecting voters and the election process. And that is honestly one of the most fascinating ones and one of the points that gets talked about the least. And there's a critical version of that we're gonna discuss in just a couple of minutes. But let's move through some of these major points and talk about how, in practice, on the ground, they're actually manifesting. So in terms of the attempting to rewrite election rules, on March 25th, Trump issued a sweeping executive order aiming to allow the president to directly set state election law, despite the president having almost no constitutional role or legal power in the administration of elections. It is, quite simply, not his job to determine how states run elections. It just isn't. And while I'm sure MAGA is very happy that Papa Trump is getting involved to help rig things, I just want to be very clear, and they know that it's true. They can cry if they want. If Joe Biden had done anything like this, you guys would have lost your minds, and you'd be right to. No president is supposed to get involved at the state level to the extent that he has. It is suspicious by its very nature. And it's even more suspicious, and again, this is where I lose MAGA, when it's the president who tried to do a coup that is taking that direct hand in state administration of elections. And so let's talk about some of what's in that. The order directed the Election Administration Committee to mandate that states require voters to show proof of citizenship in order to vote, rescind certifications for almost all voting machines, and ordered the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Government Efficiency to obtain full voter files from every state, including sensitive data like social security numbers. The order also directs the Attorney General to target states that count mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day for legal action, despite the fact that many states have done that for many years. Not just blue states, Republican states have done that for decades because the votes were sent before Election Day. And no American citizen should have their voting rights stripped away from them merely because the post office sucks by design, okay? And so all of these are attempts to get involved in ways that are not legal and should not be acceptable. They don't need to have the full voter rolls. Why the hell would they want them? Why is Doggy getting involved in literally any of this? And why are they preparing a year and a half before the midterm elections to try to discredit mail-in votes? Is it maybe something to do with the fact that Donald Trump has always provided the copium to his base of, well, if we lose, it's only because they cheated with mail-in ballots, even though he himself votes by mail? Is it possible we're onto something? Maybe. And by the way, the DHS is getting involved in this too, sending letters to election officials in 6 different states, again, seeking their full unredacted voter files. They are not legally able to do that, but again, who the hell is going to investigate them? The DOJ is Donald Trump's personal law firm at this point. And so they can not only break the norms or whatever, or common sense, they are literally breaking the law, and there's nothing at this point that can actually be done about it. But I alluded to a really scary extra thing they're doing in terms of getting rid of the federal government's obligation to protect the system of voting. And so they recently dismantled the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That is an organization that tries to stop foreign hackers from getting into our election system and messing with things. Why the hell would you take that away, you might think? Well, for 2 possible reasons. And the second might be hard, like you might not immediately think of it, but it's honestly more insidious. So the first is kind of obvious. You have Donald Trump, a guy who has already in multiple elections gotten assistance by foreign actors who have gotten involved. They've stolen information from the Democrats and then leaked it to try to damage them. That's what happened in 2016. So he likely thinks that if foreign hackers get involved in future elections, they're gonna want me in power. So why not take down the shields? Why not open the door to it? And that's a perfectly plausible theory, but it's not the only theory. The other theory is, because many people might say, well, you're overstating how much influence those foreign hackers have. And you might be right about that. I don't know that any foreign hacker could get directly involved and change the vote or whatever. But let's say they did do a hack. And let's say they did it in Georgia or whatever. And let's say that what they did really didn't matter. Okay, it wasn't actually super important. But now that state's election has been hacked. Okay, it wouldn't have been perhaps if CISA hadn't been taken away, but it was. So now that is a pretext to disqualify the results. I mean, you can't be sure after all. They were hacked. And now the Democrats have won. Oh, probably because of the hack. That's probably what it is. Again, you kick up enough dust, okay? You create enough chaos, and then you can use the chaos that you set up as an argument for why you don't need to abide by the results of the election. Again, I hope that none of this happens. I hope that they don't invalidate mail-in ballots. I hope that they don't allow in hackers and then use it to throw up ballots or whatever. I hope that they don't flood the streets with soldiers and take over places that are counting the vote. But everything they're doing implies to me that that is the plan. And by the way, let's just briefly mention, okay, if this is what you're doing, my God, you have no confidence whatsoever in your ability to win an election. How about this? How about you actually deliver for the American people? And then you don't need to overturn democracy. You could actually win within the context of one, within the confines of one. They obviously don't think that that is going to happen.